I was just like Isadora Duncan, expressing myself and building funny costumes and moving. I was having fun.
Hello, hello, hello. My name is Eline Perez and you're listening to Are You an Artist? Today's episode is with Rene Eyre, and we talk about the dilemma of trigger warnings, wild choreography ideas, fighting right before a performance, and so much more. I admire Rene deeply. She arrived with her bright energy, a very cool jacket, and a whole list of artists to recommend. Enjoy the episode! Dear Rene, I've seen you in our fantastic ballet class every Sunday, but I really began to appreciate your artistry during the creative dance workshop we shared. Preparing for this podcast, I was struck by the depth and richness of your background. You're a dance artist, choreographer, installation artist, performer, and illustrator. You have a BA in dance theatre, have performed with your own company across Europe, appeared in direct Jarman films and pop videos, and staged solo shows at Edinburgh, the Royal Festival Hall, Tate Britain, and various cabaret clubs. You've choreographed a series of backdrop films for Swede and Pet Shop Boys, among countless other projects. Now you're working on your solo show, A Bed Remade, where you explore and come to terms with family trauma. I saw a video of the work in progress and was really moved. The way you move, the storytelling, and the strength of the images stayed with me. It's such a privilege to have you here. So, Rene, are you an artist?
I am. I try. I am. It's what drives me, really.
I was so
Just
impressed when I've seen everything you've done.
Did you see the rehearsal?
Yes.
I forgot I sent that to
Yes.
you. So you wasn't traumatised by it?
I mean, I was really moved. I understand.
Yeah, like that very young girl producer at Battersea Art Centre who sobbed.
Montageline, we are referring to an earlier conversation where Rene told me that during the rehearsal, the producer unexpectedly burst into tears, which really surprised her. Yes. Now I understand.
Now you understand.
Yeah.
I guess I will have to give trigger warnings. Although I don't like to do that. As an audience member, I prefer to go in without any preconceptions. I need to be able to just be there and experience it live, to be handled in a cautious way. But perhaps because I'm pretty resilient.
Yes.
But I don't want, especially in storytelling, you don't want to be told the content of the story before it's been told.
Yes, I do as well, I think. But I understand why.
But I understand why.
It's a very interesting subject.
It's a dilemma.
Yes.
Isn't it? For storytellers or any artist showing their work, you want an element of surprise. And you want to take people on the journey. But I guess if the trigger warning was just, this contains strong subject. This contains very strong imagery and subjects, and it is very sad.
Yeah. Do you remember when you started to want to create things?
I was thinking about this morning because I was thinking that you might ask me when I first started to dance. And I mean, from very tiny, I've always wanted to perform. So I must be a show-off. I used to put the music on when my parents were out in the sitting room and just throw myself around.
Wow.
Just dance to it, go mad.
Yeah.
And even when I was in small school, I used to drag my friends and make them dance with me and do little performances in the playground. So, yeah, I've always moved and always wanted to dance. When I was about 10, I was obsessed with ballet. And I used to just get all the ballet books out the library. endlessly draw ballet dancers with their point shoes.
Me too,
I was obsessed.
remember that.
And I used to like do the crisscross ribbon because I'm quite good at drawing. And then because I spent so much time in the library scouring for ballet information and imagery, it was mainly imagery because I didn't really understand it. I just thought it was beautiful and magical. The Royal Ballet School, White Lodge, was up in Richmond Park, which was very close to where I lived. And I found that you could get a place, a scholarship, if they thought you showed promise. And so I got all the information together and I presented them to my mum. And I was like, please, I can go for nothing. And better still, it's boarding, so I can get out of the madhouse. And she was really dismissive. She just went, Rene, if you were supposed to be a ballerina, you will be a ballerina. And I was like, oh, but Mum, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
I've got to start now. I need to start now.
Yeah.
And she was like that. So I put all my energies into gymnastics, really, because they couldn't afford to send me to class. But there was gymnastics at school, and they sent me to join a gymnastics club in Chiswick. And we were competitive. And I used to have a one-to-one training.
How was that?
Once a week. It was great. She was quite ferocious, my coach. And on the bars, you'd get blisters and they'd break, you know, on the what we used to call the asymmetric bars. And you weren't allowed to wear handguards. Now you just wear handguards. Yeah. Because you do. You can imagine on the wood, little hands get really busy. And she'd be like, just put the French chalk on, girl. Get back up there. It's like that. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I did that for a couple of years and I just loved it, particularly floor work because it was very dancey. Just skipping and jumping across that bouncy floor and doing all those, you know, ending in a flourish. It was very performative. That was the nearest I was going to get to performing dance, I suppose, at that point in my life because they couldn't afford class. And my dad, he was so very controlling. You'd have to be careful not to tell him that you were passionate about something because he'd take it away from you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and he found out I was really, obsessed with my gym club and everything else. So he just stopped me going.
Oh, no.
Yeah, which was really sad. I was also thinking the first performance I did. Do you remember in the story I tell in the bed piece about being woken up in the middle of the night and carried into the sitting room?
Yes, I was thinking about that.
Yes. I think that was my first performance because I was only about 8, 9.
And you had to entertain the
I had to entertain
adults.
his mates. Yeah, and they were playing Irish rebel songs and stuff. So I'd be like jumping up and yeah. So I think that might have been my first weird, slightly dark, weird performance. Yeah, and it also sounds rather dodgy. As soon as I tell people, I'm like, oh yeah, it's not really appropriate. No. Poor thing in your nightdress in the middle of the night, being bounce on people's laps, men's laps, and having to perform for them. Yeah, it's borderline, borderline weird. But I didn't know anything about it, and I expect I probably quite enjoyed it. I think. Although I was half asleep.
And you went back to dancing because you did a BA in dance theatre.
Yes, you see, I also wanted to do acting. I always wanted to perform. But I kind of lost my nerve. And then, because I was good at drawing, I went to art college. And I went to art college back in the 70s. Everything was rather lax. So I pretended I was older than I was. I ran away from home when I was 17 because I had to get out of that madhouse. And I was doing a Saturday job in Cheapo Records on Wardour Street, which is a very trendy, brilliant vinyl shop. And the guy that ran it had a flat and he let me rent it really cheaply. And so I went at least a year early to art school. Yeah. And I pretended I had my A-levels and I pretend I was a year older. They didn't ask for any
proof.
proof.
Wow.
No. So I just went. But all the time I was there, I was going into, by this time I had a grant. So it's quite schizophrenic, really. I'm doing my art during the day and then I'm just going to class all the time at the dance centre.
Wow.
Yeah. I loved it. I had to do it. So I was kind of doing both.
Wow.
Yeah. And then a couple of years after I left art college and I was still doing my dance. In fact, I used to do all-night art parties and lots of performance art and bands and stuff. And I used to do, thankfully, nothing is on film. I used to do dance performances. And I just literally, I was just like Isadora Duncan.
I was thinking that's Isadora Duncan. That's
yeah, just dancing, just expressing myself and building funny costumes and just moving. What were you doing? I don't know. I was having fun, but I was expressing myself and I was dancing, which is what I wanted to do. It's quite funny. I did have a kind of a vision I was just, propelled to, but then I did actually get some reviews and I mean, there were more art reviews than dance. I mean, a dance critic would go, where's the technique? What's she doing? But yeah, people started asking me where I trained. And I was like, oh God, that's complicated. Art school. No, Then I got really paranoid that I'd not had any training. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I'm really glad I did. So I went as a mature student to Laban.
Yeah.
And I managed to get another grant.
Wow.
From London Educational Board or whatever. And I was really lucky. And I didn't expect to go in. I mean, I'd been doing class all that time. And I guess I was fit and supple, and I had been doing class, so I had a sort of notion of technique. And I'd done quite a lot of ballet by that time.
But your BA was in dance theatre.
Yes.
So
So we did ballet, Graham, bit of Cunningham, bit of Lamone, improvisation, notation, choreography. Okay. But it was a BA, so dance history.
But that because it was history. Dance theatre, I was wondering if it was a bit more theatrical. But actually, it's the same that I did.
I think it was. It was called that.
It didn't change at all.
Fun?
I think it didn't change at all because that's exactly what
you did. There was.
I went there in
Mirella.
2016. Oh, Mirella, it rings a bell. I didn't have her, but I heard.
She was brilliant. Yeah. She was ballet teacher, and in my third year, she was our tutor, the year tutor. And she was amazing because she was doing a PhD. She ran the ballet, and she was a third year tutor. And you'd go to her, and I remember once going to her and going, I was in the middle of doing my dissertation and I was tired. And you have to do lots of different choreographies in your third year, as you know.
Yeah.
You make your own piece, but you also have to dance in everyone else's and do your dissertation. And I was doing theatre design as my specialist subject or whatever it was called. So it was just, there weren't enough hours in the day, really. And I remember going to her for a tutorial and saying, oh, God, I'm so tired. I don't know how I can get to the end of the year. And she went, Rene, you know what I do? In the middle of the night, when I'm at my typewriter, typing out whatever I'm doing a PhD at the moment, I just lie down on the floor. I breathe deeply. I tell myself, I've got energy. I can do this. I can do this. And then I get up and I carry on. Not sympathetic at all. And I was like, oh, okay then.
I'll do that.
I'll do that then. Oh my God. And can you imagine, back in the day, we didn't have laptops. We didn't have word processors, as they were then called. We had to type out hundreds of pages in dissertation.
Yeah.
One mistake, and you were like, tip X, or start again. No spells checks. And I'm dyslexic, so it's really tough.
But you did it.
I did it. I remember Philip Grosser in my second year. I don't know, he was very strict and he didn't want a narrative piece of choreography.
Mm-hmm.
It had to be abstract. And I failed my second year choreography. I think I nearly had a nervous breakdown. It seemed like the end of the world.
Yeah.
Also, it was like continuous assessment, which meant that you could get chucked out whenever they thought you weren't trying hard enough or you were just failing everything.
Oh, wow.
So it was really, you were under the cosh at all times.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it felt like. People were having breakdowns. You'd turn a corner at Larven and there'd be someone weeping.
I've done that.
But so have I. I can't go on. It's so funny now to look back on. But anyway, what I'd done, I thought I loved this bit of choreography. I thought it was really funny. And I found this fantastic tango. It was a modern tango and it was called dilettango, like dilettango. And I thought, I'm going to be really clever with this. And don't ask me why. I decided to have a trio and I'd have them like Siamese twins. So they were attached to each other, everything they did. And they did each other's hair and they did lots of gestural and moving through space. He was just disgusted by it, really. He was like, I can't even mark this. This is ridiculous. What are they doing? They're not hairdressers, Rene.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And I went, but what about Le Noces? And he went, you're no Nijinska, Rene. Yeah. I thought it was clever.
Well,
And funny, but he wouldn't have it, so I had to do another one. I had to, end of term weeping and,
crazy.
But it's very strict.
Yeah.
Really strict. But a couple of years after I left, I started making work. I had a really great little bunch of girls and I set up a little dance troupe. It wasn't really a company. And it had a terrible name. Someone said, well, it should begin with A because, it'll always come up.
Ah.
Yes, alphabetically. Sling an A in front of it and it'll always come up at the top of the list or something. I don't know. But it actually did. It got me some work later at the video place.
Ah.
They showed people's work and I got some choreographic work through it. And it was Action Syndicate.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes, that was the name that I came up with.
Action Syndicate.
Yeah, weird.
This is not...
It's quite good typographically because I did all my post-its and artwork. So I enjoyed doing the type on my publicity with a big A and yeah, you can imagine.
And you've done some touring as well with this.
Yeah, I did some touring and even before then, before Laban, I was in this little troupe. It was someone at Pineapple and it was like a contemporary jazz group. It was quite Arlene Phillips as well. It was kind of sexy, sort of really physical, but very theatrical, big hair. And the girl she worked with Arlene Phillips and she was teaching Arlene Phillips classes at Pineapple and she set up a group, but she wanted it to be a really serious contemporary group. And she called it Aegis, Aegis, and I'm not sure it's a Greek word. I don't know what it means. But immediately people nicknamed us the Egypts.
Oh.
Which means the stupid people. Or my dad used to call me an Egypt. Are you Egypt? So it was a derogatory term and it was a bit embarrassing, really. But anyway, I was also working with Cabaret Futura, which was a very sort of left field club in Soho.
Yeah, I was wondering how you got into cabaret.
Yeah, and it was like short form performances. There were bands, obviously, bands and singers, poets.
Wow.
dance, you name it, and quite a lot of performance art.
Yeah.
And I joined the performance group that was a really mad performance art group there, Cabaret Futura. But Cabaret Futura, there was a New York producer who came over and fell in love with Cabaret Futura. And she was very much an Anglophile. She loved everything English, like a lot of Americans do. And she was like, oh, I want to take you on to tour America. And Richard Strange, who was the MC, and I helped him run it, he said, why don't you bring the girls, Aegis? And I asked her, and she didn't want to go. And the girls in the group went, but we want to go. We want to go. This is a fantastic opportunity. So they all left the group. So I inadvertently caused a mutiny. And so I was like, oh, all right then. Okay.
That's crazy. You should write an autobiography or something.
There's some funny stories.
Because your life is
mad.
Yeah, it's rich and mad and...
And I had a little boy in between Art College and Laban.
Wow.
Yes, who's now in his 40s and working on a Scorsese. He's a location finder, a manager.
Oh, wow.
And he's working on a Scorsese film.
Oh.
Finding locations for the maestro, which is so exciting. I can barely think about it without going, oh. Yes. So I, went to Laban as a mature student and with all these things that I'd done, but with the idea that I wanted to create work that combined dance, movement and visuals, like creating an environment, creating stories, visual stories through movement
Which you're doing now with your solo.
Yeah, absolutely. My first piece that I performed was inspired by Kurt Yves's The Green Table, which is a famous bit of German expressionist choreography. So heads of state around a table, banging the table and arguing.
I remember watched that actually when I was training.
Deciding who they're going to go to war with. They were like politicians. They represented politicians in suits. So I did a version with my all-girl dance group, and we wore suits. We were men. And it was very physical, around a table. It was mad touring this. I didn't get out of the country with this because there was lots of scaffolding, a staircase and a platform at the top. Mm-hmm. And I had a singer. There was a piece of original music, and then we had two songs that this fantastic singer sang. And she gradually climbed to the top of the stairs and was on this big platform. And I just wanted to create these things. And the next thing I did was a cricket opera. And what it was, a friend of mine who did the music for the last piece, the Green Table, I called it In Violet Hour. And basically he sent me a record through the post. Back in the day, people sent vinyl to each other. And he was crazy about cricket. And actually, I enjoy cricket too. And he'd put together his sort of wish list of cricketers, and he did a piece of music for each cricketer. The first half, and the second half, it was just slightly more orchestral. It wasn't orchestral, but it was just music. And when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, this is fantastic. And it was singers. So we had grass on the stage, I had the pavilion at the back, a band, and three singers.
So it's so interesting because I feel like the first things you created, you really came from images or pieces that already exist. Like you were very inspired by things. And now it's really coming from your life.
Yes.
Because you've lived so much and you've got this distance. And
that's true. Yeah, that is true. Do you know Bonnie Bird?
Yes.
Yes. Well, Bonnie Bird, there used to be the Bonnie Bird Choreographic Award.
That you won, I think.
And I won.
Yeah.
And They loved the idea. The idea actually was based on a book that I'd read about the women in Gaza. And I mean,
Crazy.
way back.
Yeah.
And I had this idea of having lots of sound on stage, and I had all this stuff. And they loved the idea. And then Bonnie Bird wanted to come and see a bit of work, and I just happened to have the cricket on. I mean, I was just lucky that I had a piece of work on at the place. And she came to see it, and she loved it. She was like, Rene, you're bonkers. You're mad. You're running a Barnum and Bailey circus here. Because it was a bit, 3 singers, a band, loads of grass, girls wielding these big cricket bats and our, breastplates instead of, boxes. And it was just very funny. It was good fun. And the music was brilliant. And to have live music on stage every night, it was great.
Yeah.
Unless they were drunk. And I remember last night at the Brighton Festival, everyone's, end of a tour, you're tired.
Yeah.
And I used to have to drive the dancers, up from London. We had 3 nights, but we couldn't afford accommodation. So I'd drive there, put up the set, and we'd done that, and we're in the dressing room getting ready, and the band arrived, and it was like FA Cup final, and they were all drunk.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, thanks a lot, Michael. You're playing live tonight. We rely on you. Because obviously I was tired and tetchy and irritable.
Yeah.
But also kind of like, couldn't you have had a drink afterwards?
Alcohol is a thing, though. Even today, I feel like for musicians, maybe not dancers before a performance, because you have to be physically...
You have to be there, present, particularly when you're counting, and you've got unison that you have to... It's either wrong or right, You can't pretend. You can't kind of improvise your way out of it. Well, you could, but then it would be completely different choreography, wouldn't it? I'm sure there's been a lot of that over the years, but it was quite funny because they arrived late, the auditorium is filling up, the dressing room is just behind the stage, and we had a fight.
Wow.
We were screaming at each other. And so girls come out on stage and we were like, oh. And I remember the first thing we did a sequence where we all leap in the air with our cricket bats, and I managed to smash a hole in the wall, in the ceiling. And it all was like, it's a long story that I'll have to tell you another time, but it was very funny. In retrospect...
The funniest stories are usually like not very funny when they happen.
Not at the time, but when you look back and you think, oh my God, I'd love to see that. But anyway, so Bonnie Bird saw it in a good state at the place when, it was all flowing very well.
Yeah.
Thank God. And I got the award, which was to research my next piece. And my next piece, by that time, 2 months later, I mean, I'm so sort of, not scatterbrained, but if I get inspired by something, I'm like, oh, I want to do that now. So I did. I started researching Frida Kahlo because I love female surrealists.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I want to do a Frida Kahlo piece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I used the money, and they didn't mind, as long as there was a piece at the end of it. I went to Mexico City.
Oh, wow.
For 3 weeks, and went to her house and went to Diego Rivera's house. And I also took a dab machine, but in the early 90s, a dab machine is just like a small suitcase. And everyone was like, you can't go to Mexico City on your own with a very expensive piece of equipment. You'll be raped and pillaged and robbed and etc. And I was like... Of course, none of that happened, and I had a brilliant, brilliant time. And I collected lots of ambient sounds that
amazing.
It was amazing. I tried to learn Spanish.
In 3 weeks?
No. On the aeroplane over.
Oh, what? That's even
I had a Walkman, and it was like, learn Spanish in a day with a small book. I managed to get a really cheap flight because the money in the award wasn't very much. It was an 18 to 30 holiday aeroplane. You know, it was a chartered aeroplane for a holiday. So it's full of people getting drunk, 18 to 30-year-olds. And I was on an aisle seat, and I just, you know, every time I put my headset on, I just didn't get beyond the first few pages. So I still only know Dos Cervezos.
I don't know that.
Two beers.
I'm very impressed.
2 beers, par favor. Bon noches. Oh, it's just rubbish. But I mean, completely deluded, as usual.
Yeah.
Thinking I could learn Spanish by the time I got there. But that was a real gift. Frida Kahlo was injured. She had that terrible trolley car accident where she was impaled by the handrail up through her vagina and out of her pelvis, and it broke her pelvis and the vertebra down here.
Yeah.
So she couldn't walk very well. She couldn't conceive.
Yeah.
And she was in terrible pain. She had lots of surgeries that she elected to go back and back. She was determined to somehow correct her spine, but back in those days, I suppose it was the 30s, it just wasn't available. So she was always wearing corsets and having different procedures being done. So I wanted to kind of evoke her spirit and her resilience, because she loved dancing and she wanted to dance, but it was all very difficult.
Yeah.
And so halfway through our piece, I wanted about 3 or 4 inches of water to just seep up.
Oh, wow.
Because then it becomes an impossible medium through which to move.
Yeah.
And her injury inhibited her movement, and
it translates that.
I was trying to not recreate her injuries, but it was a metaphor, a visual metaphor for what she was going through. It was quite dark, although it was all white on white on white, but there was a white adobe sort of wall at the back that I had cracks in, that I had my poor Jeremy, who built the wall for me, sitting behind the wall and at various points sort of seeping blood through the cracks. So the wall was slightly bleeding.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So we were standing in the dry, but gradually, and we were doing this thing on the spot. And then the lights change and you see this glistening water and the blood running into it. And then you try and move and you just slip and slide, and it was really exciting to do.
Yeah.
So it's always about it making sort of stark images, as important as everything else.
And I think you have a list of artists
to
recommend.
Yes. I mean, obviously, Derek Jarman, his paintings, his films. I was lucky enough to work with him, which was amazing. He was very, very generous. One of his last films, he was slowly going blind because he had HIV and he was very ill.
Oh, wow.
And he'd been doing some research, or he loved Yves Klein, because Yves Klein loved performance, and he did those abstract paintings in what he called his Klein blue, which is very deep. So he would have a blue screen, and all the imagery was coming from the soundtrack. He had a brilliant soundtrack. Simon Fisher-Turner made it. So he was trying to raise awareness, because it was a hard sell trying to get money to make a film that didn't have any images, because there were audio images, but with a big blue screen that you were just staring at. It was a great experience, actually, to sit there enveloped in that dark blue. But we did a series of concerts, and I also did a 90-minute version on Club X, which was on Channel 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And so we did a sort of modern feminist version of anthropometry, which was a performance that he made, that Yves Klein made, and he had a chamber music. It was in a posh Parisian gallery, and he had 3 or 4 women, naked women, and he brushed them with his famous Klein blue, and they rolled on the ground across the canvases making these paintings. And so I said to Derek, it's just me and the girls, and I'll be the sort of Klein figure flinging paint on them. But at some point in that 90 minutes, quite early on, and I was in a dinner suit because when it was originally made, all the audience were wearing evening clothes and sitting on gilt golden chairs in this posh gallery. And so I take my dinner suit off, and Simon and his brilliant musician, they took their clothes off. So we were all naked by then.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Yes. And Club X at the time, I mean, Channel 4, when it was first launched, they hosted some really experimental work.
Interesting.
Yeah. There were complaints.
Always.
Of course.
We're just a bit limited with time.
Oh, yes.
So I don't know if you want to say a couple of other names.
Obviously Frida Kahlo. Master Graham and Pina Bausch
Ah.
are my heroes because it's very expressive, also very theatrical,
Yeah.
but also just the idea of creating movement out of emotion.
Yeah.
You know, this human expression. I'm into that kind of expressive use of dance for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And probably because I'm not the greatest technicians. I do it through my, I don't know, throwing myself around. You go. So my Master Graham Pina Bausch, I did used to love just watching Michael Clark. Just because he was such a great technician, just so beautiful to watch. Leonora Carrington, brilliant female surrealist artist.
Okay.
Who did some beautiful magical paintings, but she also created some rooms, some environments, because I'm very interested in creating environments within which you dance, and within which you move.
Yeah.
So who else? Dorothea Tanning, another female surrealist. Patti Smith.
Oh, yeah.
And Kathia.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a Kathia piece, which, you know, I could only do it at RV Royal Vauxhall Tavern because it was so rude. But I'm going to go back to them. It was called Fuck Men. And that was her idea that she gave me. But my latest project, which is going back to a piece I did 30 years ago.
Yes.
Called Say a Little Prayer.
Yes.
Which was never really finished, and maybe I was too young to finish it because
30 years ago is a long time.
And it's kind of been at the back of my mind that I've wanted to kind of finish it because it's about coming to terms with a really traumatic childhood.
Yeah.
And I wanted to make sure that my brother, who kind of died because of my dad's parenting, being tortured by my dad. He died of an asthma attack, but he wasn't looked after, and we were all sort of beaten up on a regular basis. And it's a long story, but it was a climate of fear in this tiny council flat, loads of kids. Yeah, it wasn't funny, and it came out of a commission, actually. Chisenhale Dance Space commissioned me to do an autobiographical solo. And I'd never done anything autobiographical before, although really when I look back, I mean, I think all artists' work is autobiographical because how can it not be?
Yeah.
You know, I think that we are, as adults, we are sort of products of our childhood, and it's all there, and what inspires you is perhaps somehow it comes from your childhood. That your childhood forms you as an adult. Your whole adulthood is trying to come to terms with your childhood, perhaps.
Yeah.
Especially if you had a particularly traumatic one.
So do you know if it's going to be performed somewhere or?
Well, I really want to do it at the Coronet.
It's out there.
I've sent my rehearsal footage, but she's not in the country, so I haven't heard back from her.
Okay.
Yes, I have a lot of explaining to do I mean, I've more or less finished it. I've got to write the coda where I speak to the audience at the end, but it's ready to go.
It's ready to go.
It's my baby. It's almost ready to be released into the world, but it hasn't got a home as we speak. Yet.
Oh, thank you so much, Rene.